Kal Kadosh.
Recording in progress.
Kal Kadosh, I wanted to share with you an incredible shiur that I think is actually very, very important for us in this day and age. We, Bavonotenu Rabim, because of our sins, we all know of the tragic, what happened, right, in Eretz Israel. I actually just wanted to mention that this shiur and the limud today and the food is Lilu Nishmat Silvia Batrubi, Shir Nishmatat Tzor B'tzor Chaim, Amen. So on Simchat Torah, everyone knows what happened in Eretz Israel, all the tragedies, but there was an incredible story which went live, as they say. We all know all the different actions that were done over there, barbaric actions, and what happened was is that there was a girl that she was in the Nova concert in Simchat Torah, and what happened was is that the Arabs came in, and when the Arabs came, what they did was is that they violated her, right? They raped her, and afterwards the terrorist came and he shot her. Okay, now he thought that he finished the job, but the IDF were able to come in. They took her to the hospital and she was saved. So Baruch Hashem, we say Baruch Hashem, she's saved, she's alive. Now the question though that we ask is, she's pregnant. Is she allowed to do an abortion or not allowed to do an abortion? That's the question.
Sure.
Huh? For sure. Yeah, why not? Yeah. You know what? I'll read to you since listen, Baba Haki was so quick. I'll read to you a Zohar HaKadosh, and then afterwards maybe Baba Haki is going to change his mind so quickly. Zohar HaKadosh says, yeah, this is actually we're going to be later on, and it says like this: Mi shehoreg banav, somebody that kills his own child. Oto haubar she'avarato ishto, the ubar, the fetus, which is the wife became pregnant of it. Vegorem lo liareg b'me'ah, and he kills her in the stomach of the wife, whether it's him, someone else. What happens? Hores binyano shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's destroying the building of HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'umanut shelo. Yesh mi she'oreg b'nei adam v'yesh v'zeh oreg banav. Some people, they kill people. This person's killing his own children. Shalosh ra'ot say, he's doing 3 terrible things. What does he do? Kol ha'olam lo yachol lisbol. The entire world cannot even they can't even comprehend. Ve'al zeh ha'olam ne'eras le'at le'at ve'lo margish. The entire world is going to be, they're not even going to realize. So he says, V'akadosh Baruch Hu mistalek min ha'olam. HaKadosh Baruch Hu removes himself from this world, right? And then what happens? V'cherev v'ra'av u'mavet ba'al ha'olam. There's going to come cherev, sword, right? Ra'av, famine, u'mavet, and death. Ve'elu hem oreg banav. Right? He says, Hores binyan melech. So this person is destroying the melech. He's destroying the kingdom of the king. Shehi hashchina sheholechet u'meshotetet ba'olam ve'lo motzeh menucha. It does not find menucha. It does not find ve'al elu ruach hakodesh boche. On this ruach hakodesh is crying. Va'olam nidon bechol otam dinim. The entire world will be judged on these justice. Oy lo leoto ben adam. Woe to that person. Oy lo. Tov lo shelo nivra ba'olam. It was better that he wasn't created in this world. Did you just hear that, Baba Haki? Yeah? Did you just hear that? That is a person that comes and he does an abortion. So therefore, if somebody's going to ask you right now, yeah, abortion. Roe versus Wade, we're going to speak about it. 1 second, yeah? What's going to happen? It's not that simple. You just read the Zohar HaKadosh. The Zohar HaKadosh just came and he told the person, it's better that he wasn't created. He's destroying everything, the building of Hashem. Now we actually even know more than that. We know more than that because since we already know that Em Ben David Ba, right? Ad shichlu kol neshamot shebaguf. You have a neshama which is going in this fetus. Now if you're going to destroy that fetus, what happens? And that's the reason also shechat zera levatala. What's the reasoning why spilling seed is so bad? That the Gemara Mesechet Nidak, she says the Yud Zayin, that it's kilu mevi mabul haolam. So if you actually pay attention, right, Rav Zamir Cohen in his Sefer, right, he has a Sefer called the Mapach. So in the Sefer, the Coming Revolution in English, they have only 1 and 2, I think, in English, but in Hebrew, he already has 4 versions. right? 4, even 5. But in the one of the versions there, he actually comes and he says the reason why it's mevi mabula olam is because you have enough, and this we learned, if you remember in SCP on Nida. What did we learn? You have enough of the sperm cells. There's so many cells there that all you need is one drop has all the DNA that you need. And therefore, with one person, when a person comes and he lets out a seed, he could have thousands and thousands, right? If you remember what happened, we said it goes up, all the sperms that they look like little tiny arrow, they start going up, then they go through the vaginal canal, through the cervix already some of them get cut up, right? Then it actually goes into the what? Into the uterus. Into the uterus, if you remember, the woman by nature, sometimes she makes antibodies that actually kill the sperm cells on the way up, that they get attacked, they get killed, so they don't even make it. Then they come and now they have 50-50 chance. What happens? 50 will go into the left, and 50 will go into the right. Remember that there's 2 ovaries, right? And you have the fallopian tubes. So what happens is that 50% of the sperm cells are going to go to the left, 50 are going to go to the right. Well, some of them are going to go to the wrong one. The ones which are going to the right one, by the time they come down to, even though there was more than the millions of that went out, there's hardly anything left. And then the ones actually have to come and they attach it, and then after already attaching and everything, now you have to make sure that when it's coming down, that the lining is thick enough that it's going to actually come in. So it's not that simple. But why does it say that it's kivilu mevi mabula olam? Because there could be thousands and thousands of children created just from one sperm, one time that a person let go, and that's why the Gemara says, right? Kol hayad, right? What does the Mishnah there say? Kol hamarbe vayad tikatzetz. Anybody that's going to come and start touching himself, he should cut off his hand. Why? Because a person is going to come and start spilling seed. That's what's happening. So now what we're going to have to understand is, when we are talking about now abortion, what is the halacha? So now somebody's, he shot out. Yeah, for sure. Now, why would you say for sure? First of all, what avera is there, or is there an avera, or what is halacha to do with aborting a child? Now, we're not going to go into the specific case. We will, Bezrat Hashem, towards the end of the shiur. But right now, what is the halacha of abortion? Where does it come from? So if you all see the screen, okay, in the screen over here, you have the Mishnah. This is Mesechet Nida, Daf Mem Gimel Amud Bet. So the Mishnah actually comes and it says like this: Tinoket bat yom echad metamea bat benida, bat asarei yamim metamea beziva. So therefore, you have a girl already. When you're going to have 1 day old girl, it's going to be mitamea benida. Okay? I don't know if you could see my cursor. You can't see it. Okay? It's mitamea benida. Bat asara yamim, when it's going to be 10 days, ziva. Tinok ben yom echad. Now we're talking about a tinok that is 1 day old. There it says over there, mitamea beziva. Which one?
It's a fetus.
No, it's not a fetus. This is a born. So 1 second. Very good. Very good. 1 minute. We did a shwai. You're going to give over the entire shiur in 1 minute. 1 second. Says the Mishnah, Tinok ben yom echad, metame beziva, metame benegaim, metame betame met. Zakuk, right? Zokek libum, poter mina ibum, machil betuma, poser mina tuma. Look at all these things on Tinok ben yom echad. Meaning, the second that a child is born and he's 1 day old, he's already going to become tameh in a ziva. Let's say if there was a zav, that zav came out of him, which is basically, remember, the difference between a zav and shichvat zera, right, is the same thing with a woman. By a woman, there's what's called the nida and zava. They're both blood. Just nida is the normal cycle, and zava is going to be a sickness. When it has to do with zav and a shichvat zera, right, they're both a type of a shichvat zera, but the zav, which is a sickness, is when the organ is dead. It's not strong, it's not live, right? And it's a different substance, liquid, a little bit, no? Right? It's more liquidy, right? It's a little bit different of a substance, but that's called a zav. So if this child already 1 day old has a zav, it's mitameh bezav. Very good. Then he comes and he says, here you have, right? He comes and he says, now you have another case, mitameh benegaim, right? What is negaim? Tzarat. You have mitameh tamemet. If he became in contact with the deceased or in the same oil, mitameh tamemet. Zakuk liibum. Right? What happens? All of a sudden, if right now his brother passed away and now he's already born, the second that he was already born, that's it. She has to wait for him. Miskina, she's going to wait another 13 years until he becomes a gadol, right? Until she's able to do yibum with this child. Upotemina yibum. If right now the father passed away, right? The second that if she was pregnant, it's a big problem. Right? If you remember, we gave an entire shiur on that. If the woman's pregnant, what happens at the time, or if after the death she became conceived only 1 or 2 days afterwards. That was Shavuot 2 or 3 years ago when we gave that. right? So what happens now? Now all of a sudden he's going to be poter in yibum. What does that mean? The father dies, he's already 1 day old. The mother doesn't do yibum. Why? He's already born. Ma'achil betruma. He could give to eat truma. Posel betruma. He's going to be posel betruma. All these things are nochel u'manchil. Ve'orgo chayav. If you kill a 1 day old baby, you're going to be chayav. He's going to be like a chatan. What does that mean to do with hilchot avelut? The Gemara now on Memdalad comes and one by one is going to teach you each one. On the bottom, right, and that's where I am right now, on the bottom of Memdalad Amud Aleph, comes the Gemara and it says, what is the case of nochel benichsei ha'em lanchil? What is the case of nachalot now, of inheritances? So there the Gemara says, we're talking about dafka yom echad, aval ubar lo. But a fetus does not give over inheritances. Why not? Tehu mait bereisha, because he dies first. What does that mean? If you're going to come and you're going to have a woman that she's pregnant and she dies, so automatically who dies first? The child. That's what the Gemara says. The Gemara says tehu mait bereisha. He's going to die first, and since he's going to die first, he died before the mother. So therefore nobody could come and give over inheritances. He died, the fetus died before the mother died. On this there's a Tosafot. Okay, and this Tosafot is over here.
The fetus die when the mom is alive. So it's not the case you say.
So since the fetus died before the mother, so he cannot be nochel, he cannot give over a nachalat to somebody else. Remember that the woman, right, if he was alive, he would be able to give to other family members. Let's say he has brothers from the father, right? But if he dies first, so he's not nochel malchil, nothing. He cannot do anything. So what happens? He died first. So now the mother passes away. Now it all goes. It goes first of all to the husband. If there's no husband, then if there's no other children, it will go back to her family members or whoever it is. Right? It's going to go back. But why? Because the nubar, he's going to die first. Now says the Tosafot is going to actually ask, what is the case exactly? How could you tell me that he dies first? There's never a case where you have that the mother dies and the child is still alive. There's a Gemara mefureshet, the Gemara brings down, whether it's going to be Yashva lamashber, umeta, right? And she dies. What do? Mechatchin ota b'Shabbat. You even are allowed to cut her up on Shabbat, umotzin et avlad. And you could take out the child. Now the Gemara is going to say, 1 second, there's a Gemara mefureshet, you're allowed to be mechalel Shabbat. Now technically, 1 second, if he's already dead, what are you coming and telling me now to cut up? Remember, to cut up a body, right, is an isur doraita, chovel. Right? You're not allowed to do that. It's Isur Doraita. You can't be Mechalel Shabbat. So how are you coming and now, right, cutting open the womb, right, in order to take out the child, if he already died first? She died. So if she died, he's dead. So if he's dead, what are you cutting her up to take out the child? So that's the Gemara Mefureshet. So the Gemara wants to answer. Tosfos comes and he says, in Achanami, we're talking about Ben Yom Echad, Mishum de Psikale, de Nochel Machil. But sometimes, or he wants to come and he say, it could be that sometimes, when she's already in the birth zone and he's already trying to come out, it could be he could still live after the mother dies, because he's already coming outside. He's already on his way out, so he's already like self-sufficient. And we already know anyway that many times, right, even after, it could be that he's still got a few minutes, seconds, whatever it is, until finally the oxygen stops kicking in, as we know.
Many times where the woman dies
and the baby's still alive. So that's what he said, because usually many times what happens is it's immediate and you're able to right away take him out. You could still save it. If it's going to be after a little while, then no. Right, and that's what the Gemara is obviously saying, right? But the main part of the Tosafot that I wanted to bring is Memdalad Amud Bet. Memdalad Amud Bet comes and it says, right? 1 second. When you're going to talk about now, right? Isha HaMaksha. You have a woman that she's having problems in labor, right? And now what happens? The child is giving her problems, so she could die in labor. What are you going to do, right? So, okay, obviously you do 6 but what? Can you kill the child to save the mother? So it's a Gemara Mefureshet, and it's actually brought down in the Halacha. It's brought down in the Rambam, and we're going to see it also in Shulchan Aruch, right? It's brought down. What does it say? It says over there that you're allowed to chotech ever, you're allowed to cut off the limbs in order that it comes out, and therefore it's not going to cause any harm to the mother, and therefore she can live. But Yatzar Rosho, if he puts out his head, says En dochin nefesh mipene nefesh. Now they're both alive. Once they're both alive, that means he took out his head. Remember, once he takes out his head, he's already called born. He's already called alive, right? And that's the head, right? Or even Rov Rosho. We learned this in Indals as well. But the second he takes out even Rov Rosho, which could be Padachto, but whichever means, that means he already came and it started coming out. He's already born. Once he's alive, they're both alive. Why are you going to kill the mother, not the child? They're two different people. They're two different human beings. So why are you going to kill one more than the other one? So he says, 1 second, you're not going to be chayav if you killed him until he takes out his head. Because he's still alive because of the mother. But what happens if she dies? Right? Maybe you should be chayav mishum. Maybe he's locked up in a box. So he says, if you're going to ask, maybe you're allowed to kill him in the stomach. Right? Even if the mother dies. So why are you going to be mechalel Shabbat? So the Gemara answers, "V'yesh lomar temikom makom mishum pikuach nefesh mechalin lavat Shabbat af al gav demutar leorgo." One more time, he says, even though, right, he comes and he says, now, because of pikuach nefesh, you're allowed to be mechalel Shabbat. Why? I could still save him, but you're still allowed to kill him, right? Even though he says, af al gav demutar leorgo teha goses bidei adam orgo patur, right? He says, 1 second, what about goses? We know that a person, we're learning now Ilchot Avelut, right? Simichat Chaver. What is Goses? A person that he's on his step out. So if he's on his step out and he's going to die, right? What happens? If you come and you touch him, what happens? You're considered a murderer. But if somebody actually kills him, is he chayav? He's not chayav. Gavla Katar, right? He's already chayav. He's already dying. He was a dead man. You're not allowed to do it, and it could be considered. But are you going to be killed? We can't kill you for it. So therefore, you're right. We can't kill you for it, right? But at the end of the day, right? He says, but we're still going to be mechalel Shabbat for a goses. We're going to be mechalel Shabbat for all these people. So therefore, you can't compare it. So from this Tosafot, he used the terminology that it's even though if you're going to say he says patur, that you're allowed to kill him. So 1 second, so maybe it comes out that you're allowed to kill a fetus. Somebody comes to kill a fetus. Can you obligate them anything? Can you do anything? So maybe you're going to say, listen, Tosafot, it's mutar. Here already, we already have on the page, Hagovet Tzionim. Hagovet Tzionim Kaf, I'm on the bottom left over there, if you see it. It says, right, Eno meduyak, temanu deshari laroget ubar belo tam. Who's the one that's ever going to permit to kill an ubar without any reasoning? Afal gav dene ragalav, even though he's not going to be killed. So you're right. It could be I can't kill you. But does that mean that it's mutar? Right? Not because I can't kill you doesn't mean that everything's permitted in life. Imagine somebody comes, right? He goes to his friend, boom, he gives him a box. So what are you doing? Well, you can't kill me. Okay, you're right. You can't kill me for giving you a punch in the face, but it's a mutar? Am I allowed to? Should I do these things? Where in the world do you ever see such a thing? So there's another Gemara. Listen to this Gemara. Gemara in Mesechet Sanhedrin. The Gemara in Mesechet Sanhedrin comes and it says as follows. Okay, we're on the top of the page. First line. Ashkach Rabbi Yaakov bar Acha, Dav Ktiv b'Sefer Agadta debe Rav. He found that it was written in a Sefer Agadta, right, debe Rav. Ben Noach neherag bedayan echad ubed echad, v'shelo be'atra. There's a difference between the court system for us and a court system for a Ben Noach. A Ben Noach, which is a non-Jew, he's going to be killed even with one dayan. For us, how many dayanim you need? A minimum of the bedin of a minimum of 23 for the, how do you call this, for mitah is much more. Now the bedin of 3 is only for money matters, right? But really be'emet, we're talking about the bedin that's killing, it's much more than that. Here, one dayan, ed echad, one witness, v'shelo be'atra'ah, even without a warning. That means for a goy, right, you have one witness, you kill him. You have no warning, you kill him. Obviously we're talking about Sheva Mitzvot Bnei Noach, right, that they're going against the Noahide laws, right? We're not talking about anything else because they're not allowed to keep the Torah, right? So that's what we're talking about. But that's what the Gemara says. Now the Gemara comes and it says, Mishum Rabbi Yishmael Amru, he comes and he says, Afilu afala ubarim. They're going to be chayav, death penalty, even for killing an ubar, even for killing a fetus. Menane mila, how do we know that? It says in the pasuk, it says, Ach edimchen nafshotchem edrosh, right? He comes, he says, My Tama de Yishmael. It says, Shofech dam ha'adam, ba'adam damo yishafech. Ezehu adam, shehu ba'adam. It says, Shofech dam ha'adam, ba'adam. You're spilling the blood of a person in a person. What person is in a person? That means it's an ubar, it's a fetus. So he says, that's a ubar inside of the mother's stomach. So says Rashi, Hikaita ishav yatsu yiladea. If a person comes and he hits a pregnant woman, and she aborts because of it. She has a miscarriage because of it. Neherag alehen. They're going to be killed. A ben Noach is killed for killing an ubar. Right? Uvi Yisrael ad sheyetzeh avir ha'olam. But a Jew, only if he's already born. So as it says in the Gemara, Kedidam Mesechet Nida, Tinok ben yom echad haorgo chayav. Heicha dekim lebegaveh shekalu lo chadashav ve'eno nefel. He comes and he says there's a difference in a Jew and a non-Jew. So here it's coming out from the Gemara. Gemara and Rashi, what Rashi is explaining, there's a difference between a ben Noach and a Jew. If a Jew comes and he takes a pregnant woman and he punches her in the stomach, he wants her to abort. A Jew does it, he's not chayav mitah. Why? It said in the Mishnah that we learned in Nidam Mem Gimel Amud Bet, only Tinok ben Yom Echad Haorgo, he's going to be chayav. If he's not Tinok ben Yom Echad and he's a fetus, he's not going to be chayav. But in the Gemara in Mesechet Sanhedrin Nun Zayin Amud Bet says that a ben Noach is going to be chayav even on the ubar. So now we're going to come and we're going to see an interesting Tosafot on Daf Nun Tet Amud Aleph. So look in Tosafot Nun Tet Amud Aleph, it's the bottom, right? The bottom of where it says Leka Midam, right? L'Yisrael Shari. Let me try to make this bigger. Okay, you have it bigger over there. Leka Midam de L'Yisrael Shari. Meaning like this. I'm going to ask you a very simple question. Mitzvat Brit Milah. When was it given to us? Avraham Avinu. Okay, fine. Pidyav Rivya. Yeah? Adam Rishon. Even if we're not going to say it's Adam Rishon, it was going to be from Noach, whatever, okay, fine. But what happens exactly? We have a very simple question. We have Matan Torah. Was Shabbat given before Matan Torah? Technically, yes, no? Because if Matan Torah is Parashat Yitro, and they were given Shabbat b'Mara, Mara was before they got. So technically there was Shabbat, there were many mitzvot, there were certain mitzvot that were given before. Parashat HaChodesh, Kiddush HaChodesh. It was Parashat Bo at the end, right before. It was before we even left Mitzrayim. I'm going to ask you a question. Now we received the Torah. Hashem has to give us the mitzvah again or not? Does Hashem have to give us the mitzvah? We received it before. Before Matan Torah, we received a certain mitzvah. Does he have to give us the mitzvah again after Matan Torah or not? We received it. He tells us, you guys, which one? No, we received it from Hashem. Let's say we were talking about Parashat HaChodesh. Parashat HaChodesh.
Has to come through a prophet.
Okay, yeah. It came from the prophet. It came from Moshe Rabbeinu. He comes and he tells the Parashat HaChodesh. HaChodesh is Lechem Rosh Chodeshim. Does he have to repeat it after Matan Torah? The answer is no. Why? It's a svara. If we become greater, we became now Jews, is there a svara, is there a logic to say that everything that we did beforehand, a ben Noach, we were going to be patur, chayav, and now we're going to become patur? Doesn't make sense. It's like v'nafochu. Jews are supposed to be on a higher level, not a lower level. So it cannot become that a person is now going, and that, by the way, this concept is many times brought down in halakha. For example, a ger. If a ger is going to come and he's going to be ba'alimo, he's going to have relations with his mother. Do you kill him or not? He's going to come to you on Bedin. He's going to tell you, I'm sorry. I'm a katan shenolad dami. I was just born. She's not my mother. What are you going to do? You're going to accept it? Obviously not. Why not? Because the logic is that something that was already prohibited to us, betor goyim, cannot become permitted after we go up in a level. We just went up in a level. How does that happen? It doesn't make sense. That concept is called Leka Midam Tel Yisrael Shari. What does that mean? Says Tosafot, Pedavar shehu mitzvah liYisrael, lo amrin al hachi deovet kochavim sheshavat chayav u'liYisrael mitzvah. אף אגב דבר שני בשבת, המצווה לישראל, מכל מקום יש עליו מצווה שביתת שבת. וכל העוברים דעובד כוכבים חייב וישראל פטור. Says Tosafot, I have a question. The question that we just said, the Gemara. If you're going to tell me that there doesn't exist a concept that for a goy, he has a higher level than a Jew, that something's prohibited for him, and what about the ubar? The ubar, we just told you, that if a goy kills an ubar, he's chayav mitah. And if a Jew kills an ubar, he's not chayav mitah. Says Tosafot, af al gav de patur, mikol makom lo shari. Even though it's patur, it's not permitted. And then he comes and he asks another question. He says, we said yatzar rosho, and ogimbo, you don't touch him, and dochin nefesh mipnei nefesh. But beforehand, right, before you take out his head, right, She's allowed to cut him up. She's allowed to get rid of him. So what's going on? And by Avei Kochavim, what's going to happen? So what's going to happen then? So he wants to say also Yisrael is mitzvah kedei la'atzil. That means even a goy, maybe he could do this in such a case. Meaning in such a case, maybe even a goy, if the child is going to kill the mother, maybe even then it would be permitted for him to do such a thing. Right? But it doesn't. So here is the one place where we see, Tosafot just told you, don't think, right, that it's permitted to kill an ubar for a Jew. It's not permitted. You're not going to be killed, that yes. Meaning, the halacha vleka lemidam, which means the halacha that we're on a higher level, is to do the avera, not to do the punishment. The punishment, it could be such a thing that the punishment is going to be a worse punishment for a goy and not for a Jew. When is that? The ubar. But it can't be that it's mutar. So it's not going to be mutar. It's going to be asur. And by the way, you should know, right, all of these halachot, they're going to go, I don't know if we're going to have enough time, but we're going to go through it, that it's actually going to be, or I'll leave it until the end, that there's going to be huge machlokot. What exactly is the avera of killing a rubar? Is it doraita? For example, Rav Vadia held that it was doraita. Right? Rav Moshe Feinstein, doraita. Some shitot held that it was even going to be avizah, the shvichut damim. Other shitot are going to hold other things, which we're going to see in a second. Right?
How did they get it from the Gemara then?
Which one?
How did they get it from the Gemara then?
Of what? Of
that opinion, if the Gemara was clear that it has to be Yom Echad.
No, because Haurgo Chayav. It doesn't say that you're allowed to do it. We're not going to kill you. You're right. We're not going to kill you. The Mishnah only said Haurgo. And it says Chayav Mita. Are you over an Isur? Of course you're over an Isur. And it could be a Yisur Doraita. There's actually a Sifri in the beginning of Ayakel, and it's brought down in the Meshech Chochma, and it's brought down in other places as well, that they actually want to learn it also from the Psukim and Mishpatim and other places as well, that it's actually going to be Doraita as well. But I'm not going to go into it because there's a lot of going back and forth, but we're going to go straight from here, we're going to go to the Rambam. The Rambam, right, comes and he actually brings this down, Halacha L'Maseh, and the Rambam comes and he says as follows. The Rambam in Ilchot Rotzeach, right, Ilchot Rotzeach, Perek Aleph, in Nizikin, he comes and he says in Halacha Tet, he says like this. He comes and he says as follows. He comes and he says, אף זו מצוות לא תעשה שלא לחום על נפש הרודף, לפיכך הורו חכמים שהעוברה שהיא מקשה ללד. You have a woman that she's right now having problems with giving birth. מותר לחתוך הבובר במאה. You're allowed to cut up the child in her stomach in order to save her. Ben besam, ben biyad, whether it's going to be with chemicals, whether she's taking medicines, or even with the hands, doesn't matter. He's a rodef. He's going to try to kill her. Once he takes out his head, you're not allowed to touch him. Because you do not want to push off one nefesh for another neshama. And that is the nature of the world. What does that mean, the nature of the world? So I told Ronnie, if you guys remember, in Sudash Lishit, I don't remember when it was a few years ago, he spoke, and it was probably a nachala. That's usually what happens. So it was a nachala probably of the mother or something. So it must have been in Tammuz. He came and he said, he brought a shiur of Rav Asher Weiss. So Rav Asher Weiss wanted to say, what's the svara behind, right, this entire thing of nefesh b'pnei nefesh. The second that the child sticks out his head, so now he's already born. We cannot do anything, because whoever said that the mother is a bigger value of life than the child? Maybe the child is bigger than the mother. Once they're two human beings, they can't do that. But, right, she herself is allowed to kill the child. And that was based upon what we just mentioned also in the Tosafot, that maybe even the goy would be able to kill his own child if he's going to kill him, because there he's the rodef klapeh the mother. Meaning each one, once the child is already sticks out his head, each one is a rodef. The mother wants to kill the child, and the child wants to kill the mother. Before he was born, there's only one neshama here. The neshama is the mother, she's alive. The child is a fetus still inside of the body, he's still not alive. Once he sticks out his head and he breathes that first oxygen, now all of a sudden what happens? Now all of a sudden he's alive. So now each one is running after the other. So she could kill the fetus, but we're not allowed to. We have to leave it.
If you see somebody running out with a gun,
100%, because you have a mitzvah to stop him from killing him. Right? But what if they're both rodef to each other? You cannot do anything. Why? They're both trying to kill each other. We'll talk about whether it's war or other things. You cannot do that. You're talking about in a normal case, this guy is chaf mi pesha, he's completely innocent, and you see somebody coming trying to kill. You can't do that, I'm sorry. Right? You cannot decide. So therefore you're not allowed to do that. So that's the Rambam. Now we're going to go into the stories. So the first story is a very interesting story. It's a Shut Chavot Yair. The Shut Chavot Yair comes and he asks as follows. This is a shoot chavot yair. You could see it here. This is now clear. Ayin shoot shelat yavetz, right? And he comes. He says like this. Val davar shelatecha eshet ish she'ara liznunim. You have a woman that she committed infidelity, and what happens is that after the maaseh, after the action, nitcharta, she comes. She has remorse. That she comes. She starts crying, and she's daytime, nighttime. Right? She's nachal kadima v'ticha rosha because she's hitting her head against the wall until blood is coming out. She even tells her husband. Right? This is mamash tshuva. She tells her husband. Right? V'gam biksha michacham sheseduru la tshuva. He comes, he asks the rabbi, what is the seder of tshuva? Everything. She's going to do everything. And all of a sudden, what happens? Like she suspected, she's pregnant. What's the child? A mamzer. Child's a mamzer. She stopped seeing her veset or her cycle, right, that she always used to have, and all of a sudden she doesn't know what to do. So the question is, can she commit an abortion? That's the question. Shoot chavot yair. Okay, this is the question. Okay, he comes and he says like this. Right, he's playing a lot of words. So I'm just going to translate. Okay, I'm reading along. You guys have it over here. Right, or right over here in Chavot Eid. Okay, the truth is I have to make it a little bit smaller. Okay, so he comes and he said this. You started coming and asking, right, about this question, right, and you started saying about the Eshet Ish, but the truth is, I don't understand what's the difference between, right, the Eshet Ish and not the Eshet Ish. He says, why? Because the child is a mamzer. You're allowed to do that. Is a mamzer kasher lavo bekal? Yes. You have a case where you have a Kohen Gadol sorry, not Lavo Bakal, I'm sorry. The Mamzer is never allowed to go Bakal. Sorry, not Lavo Bakal. Is he a kosher Jew? He's a kosher Jew. Or Mechalin? Which one? Very good. We just saw it. Right? What does that mean? We just saw. No, I made a mistake when I said Lavo Bakal. Lavo Bakal, Mamzer is never allowed to go Bakal. One more time. One second. No, Doshli, she's Mitzri. Right? 1 second. Right? What happens is as follows. Right? A Kohen Gadol, Ama'aretz, or mamzer tamid chacham, who comes first in everything? In to save him, in aveda, in what? Just because he's mamzer? What's the big deal? He comes and he says, I don't understand what you're saying. He says the only thing, okay, fine. So you can't come and he's asul avobakal. You can't put him in a Sanhedrin, right? Come inside. Yeah? He comes and you can't put him in a Sanhedrin, right? You can't do certain things. But he says, but I don't understand. He says to do with everything else, everything's the same. So now what are you going to come and you're going to tell me now? So what do I care now? Meaning the fact that she's an Eshet Ish. What's the question? So therefore, the Yikar She'ela is, are you allowed to cause an abortion or not? Forget what, you come and you put me as part of the question, by the way, she's a married woman, and now he's going to become a mamzer. Says the Chavot Yair, what do I care about now he's becoming a mamzer or not? I don't care about becoming a mamzer or not. That's not the question. The question should be, is it going to be permitted to commit the abortion, yes or not? So he brings down, we learned in the Mishnah, Perek Yotzei Dofen. Again, even first of all, Shelo Bikdusha is only if she's a Goya. She is Bikdusha. She's a Jew. Everything is done Bikdusha.
Is the mamzer addition totally irrelevant to the question?
Well, that's what he's saying. He's trying to say is it's irrelevant because even if he's a mamzer, what do I care, right? Or there's going to be certain times that we're going to speak about. What happens if there's no mamzer?
Something about this pregnancy to make it less valuable and therefore more conducive.
We're going to see why. We're going to see why, even though you're touching upon something that we're going to speak about. But 1 second, very good. The Chavot Yair though wanted to say, I don't understand what you're asking. What does it have to do with mamzer? Right? Ask me a question. Are you allowed to abort? And that's it. Are you allowed to have abortion? So he brings down the Mishnah Perek Yotzei Dofen. Ben Yom Echad brings down the Gemara. He brings down other Gemarot as well to do with what we mentioned, Mechalin into Shabbat. When you're cutting it up, he brings down the Tosafot. And he comes and he says, right like this, Ulemshech nirei yesh kan gimel chilukei dinim ba'ubar. There are 3 chilukim in an ubar. Keshemeta imo, when the mother dies, chayav harugo. So if somebody kills the ubar now, he's going to be chayav, right? He says b'da'akar, obviously if he starts coming out, right? B'da'adayin chaya, if she's still alive, he's going to be patur if you kill him. Aval asur lehorgo. But you're not allowed to kill him if he's a dakar. Maybe it's mashmatz mutar. So he says maybe it's not like that. He brings down other mishnayot. Finally he comes and he continues going. And what happens is he continues going and he says like this. Don't ask, so then why are you be mechalin Shabbat? He comes and he says, no, you're allowed to be mechalel Shabbat. So fine. Afterwards he comes and he says, it comes out that which you asked is really be'emet 100% an isur. And he says, "V'im ken lefi ma shekatavti haya yoter gamur," but he says, but there's a minhag pashut, right? Benenu benehem mipnei geder hapirtzot hapirtzot v'azonim acharehem. And he says, no. The Tosafot says mipshitut that he brings down the Tosafot that we just brought down. And the Tosafot comes and he says that he's going to be killed. Now he says, how could it be that the Jews are going to be, right, again, what we said, lo midam, which means how could it be that a Jew is going to be exempt? It doesn't make sense. Now he comes and he says, so therefore, he comes and he says that really be'emet is going to be an Isur. But what would be the Isur? He comes and he says something incredible. He says, you know what the Isur is going to be? The Isur is going to be Shichvat Zera Levatala. And that's why I started the shiur with this. What does that mean? The Chavot Yair comes and he says, when she's going to come now and she's going to destroy this child, you just destroyed the zera of the husband. So the fact that you came and you destroyed the zera of the husband, it's of the zera of the yes, you're right. Okay, in a normal case it's a husband, but here it's the lover, right? So therefore it's going to be a sur. So therefore he comes and he says it's going to be a sur. Okay, that's what he wants to come. He wants to come and he says it's going to be sur. Which one?
It's different.
No, we thought that we wanted to say maybe it should be mutar. So think about this. You have a case of a mamzer, comes the Chavot Yair and he says, asur. You can't kill the child. Why was it levatala?
Because he was with the
A married woman, that's not levatala. He was just over in isur doraita, but it's not levatala. I'm going to ask you a question. A person comes and he commits adultery, right? You're going to kill him. Felipe, but you're not. What? But it's not Shikvat Zera Levatala. But why is it Shikvat Zera Levatala? He did everything normal. There's no Shikvat Zera Levatala.
Infidelity, it's something.
But that's not Levatala.
well, instead of the head, it was the woman that was not supposed to.
I'm going to bring you down a bombshell. I'm going to bring you down a bombshell. Listen to this. Listen to this bombshell. Listen to this very carefully. Right? What is one of the worst averot in the Torah? What is one of the most averot, the worst averot in the Torah? Zera Levatala. Where is that brought down? Where is that brought down? Do you know the son of Yehuda and everything? But one second, Erve Onan, do you know there's an incredible Shulchan Aruch? Shulchan Aruch on Siman, I don't remember if it's going to be Kaf Gimel or Siman, let me see here, listen, he comes and he says like this, Siman Kaf Aleph Kaf Bet Siman Kaf Gimel. Siman Kaf Gimel in Shulchan Aruch it says, Avon, listen to me, I'm listening, I'm quoting you. Hey, Kumboa. Yeah? Listen carefully. He comes and he says, Avon Shichvat Zera Levatala Chamur Mikol Ha'averot Shebatorah. I'm quoting you Shulchan Aruch. Even Ha'ezer Siman Kav Gimel. Are you guys listening? Yeah? One more time. Avon Shichvat Zera Levatala. Spilling seed is Chamur Mikol Ha'averot Shebatorah. Lefichach, and therefore, Lo Yadam Dash Mi Bifnim Zora Bibchutz. A person cannot masturbate or do anything to spill the seed. Velo Yisak Tana Shena Ruya Liled. Yeah? Do you know that there's an incredible Bet Shmuel? A Bet Shmuel comes and he says, one second, if you're going to tell me that the Shichvat Zera Levatala is one of the worst, and this is based upon the Zohar HaKadosh and others, right? And by the way, where do we also see that Shichvat Zera is one of the worst of the Avirot in the Torah? I'm going to bring you a halacha that I'm sure the majority of people don't know here. A person has nachala. One person comes in the Bet HaKnesset, he tells you, right, the Parnasim have to know this. One person comes, he says, has nachala of the father. Another person comes in, he says, nachala of the mother. Let's pretend it's the same day, there's no difference. One person has father, one person has mother. Who goes first? Father first. Why? Why? That's one reason. The Rav Chida says, Zera Levatala. Second reason, Bitul Torah. Avon Bitul Torah. A woman doesn't have Zera Levatala and Bitul Torah. Because of that, the man needs more kapara. And since a man needs more atonement, that's why he gets the first Dinei Kedima in the Kaddish and in all those other halachot. But now, says a Bet Shmuel, I have a question. If you're going to tell me that Shichvat Zera Levatala is so chamur, so now imagine right now, a person, he might have Zera Levatala, and he's got a choice. It's either he's going to be Motzi Zera Levatala, or he goes with his wife Nida. What should he do? I'm going to leave food for thought. Bet Shmuel. Right? If you want to live or look it up. Food for thought. Okay, just to understand what's going. Because one second, what's going to happen, right? But just to understand the gravity of avon shikvat zera batala. Says the Chavot Yair, because of shikvat zera batala, you're not allowed to abort. Now we're going to come and we're going to see somebody else. The Yavetz. Who's the Yavetz? Listen to the Yavetz. Yavetz comes and he's going to ask the following question. He's asked this question to do with, right, the same question as the Chavot Yair. And he's going to quote the Chavot Yair, right, the Yavetz, and he's going to say as follows. The Sefer Chavot Yair, he's asked the question, Bezelashon, Vani Atzaid, he comes and he says, right, this is what Ronnie was trying to say before, and there's a huge difference over here, right? He says, the question of a Chacham is already a Chetzi Tshuva. The question of a rabbi is already half of the answer. He comes and he says, you know why? Bepnuya, v'chol shekem b'nesua meuberet. He comes and he says, we're not talking about now pnuya. Why are we talking about now? We're talking about now the case of the mamzer. Why are we talking about the case of the mamzer here? He comes and he says, you know why? Something incredible. I'm going to ask you a question. Let's say we had a Bet HaMikdash. Yeah, Bezrat Hashem, we had the Bet HaMikdash. And now somebody comes, right? Somebody comes in the Bet HaMikdash, and right now they bring two witnesses. This woman, she just cheated on her husband. They bring two witnesses. And what happens? They actually say that she's Chayamita. I'm going to ask you a question. Do we wait to find out if she's pregnant or not? Do we wait? No. We don't wait nothing.
This is on witnesses, not
nothing.
Sotah.
Which one? Not Sotah. Sotah, right? Sotah we have to wait because Tolim B'zchut. To do with the death penalty, it's for sure. Sotah is a fake. Here for sure she committed adultery. Not only that, even if we know for sure she's pregnant. Let's say by the time that we got the witnesses to come and by the time we're able to do everything, it doesn't matter how long afterwards. We know for sure she's pregnant. Do we wait? Says the Gemara, no. If we do not wait, then the question is going to be, 1 second. What did the child do? Why are you killing the fetus? What are you killing the child? But we killed the child. So comes the Yavetz and he says, even though we don't have Arba Mitot Betin, we have the din of Dalet Mitot Betin. Meaning, the Gemara in Sanhedrin says that even though we cannot kill anyone, but somebody that was supposed to, for example, Chayav Skila, so you're going to have, he's going to fall off a building, right? Ari will come and bite him up and eat him up. There's that. The din, meaning Hashem will make it happen, right? The situation very similar that he'll get the Arba Mitot Bedin. Even though there's no Arba Mitot, we can't kill anybody, but that will get it. So says the Yavetz, because of that, vafilu bizman hazeh, that we're not doing Didei Nafshot, since this woman is a bat ketalahu, af al gav de mamzer keshetze la'avida olam dino kekasher. This mamzer, once he's born, he's a normal person. And if you kill him, you're chayav mitah. Anybody will be chayav mitah. He says now, ubar yerechimo, the child, the fetus is still part of the mother. And if we have the deen that we're allowed to kill her, we could kill the child as well. So therefore he comes and he says, that's the reason why the rabbi asked that it's the child's a mamzer. The child's a mamzer, meaning that really by man we should have killed her. And if we kill her, we're killing the child. So now if the child technically is anyway a dead man, basically, right? Before he's born. Once he's born, that's it. He's a regular Jew. But beforehand, right?
Her.
What?
You could still kill her.
Well, you could still kill her afterwards, fine. But but again, at the time right now. So therefore he says there's no problem. So therefore he comes and he says, right, there's no, even if the mother is alive, there's no problem here. Then he comes and he continues.
That wasn't clear. One more time.
One more time. Basically what he says like this. It says the Yavetz, this woman is already a dead woman. Why? With a baby inside. And the baby is a dead baby. Because when we kill the woman, we're killing the baby. Okay. So therefore he comes and he says, even though we cannot kill with a betin anymore, but the din of the Dalet Mitot Betin still apply. What does that mean? She's going to die anyway. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be mesovev the olam, and don't worry about it. So because Keilu, this child, is already a dead baby, so we could kill. For example, he comes and he asks another question. So that's why the mamzer was important. It was only a mamzer you're allowed to kill, because it's a dead child. But a regular fetus is not a dead child. A regular fetus, a person has a regular baby. Why in the world are you going to kill the regular fetus? Only once it's born. Once it's born. A mamzer, once the mamzer is born, he's like a regular Jew. Right? Again, a sulavo bikal, but meaning he's a regular Jew, you're not allowed to kill him, fine. But before he's born, if right now we had the Bet HaMikdash, would we kill her? Yes. Will we kill her with the baby inside? Yes. So she's a dead man.
Right.
Well, he obviously is a mamzer, right? Obviously is a mamzer, right? The fetus is a mamzer. Yeah, you understand? When we kill her, we kill the baby. So therefore, says the Yavetz, so because of the exact same thing, what's happening is right now we're going to kill her as well. We could kill. What's the proof? Can she commit a suicide?
Anyway, she's chayav mita.
Can she commit suicide? Yes, she's chayav mita. So can she commit suicide? Says the Yavetz, we found many times, whether it's by Shaul HaMelech, whether it's going to be in Midrashim, whether it's going to be with, how do you call this, Baalei Tshuva, all these are many different stories. The Koves during the time of Rebbe, at the end of Ketubot, right, that he went and he found out that he wasn't there at the time when Rebbe passed away, so he went and he killed himself. The other story of Vayarech Atreach Begadav, of Yosef with Itzorot, I forgot the name. Okay, fine. All these people, what did they do? They did Darba Mito Betin to themselves. They killed themselves. So he comes and he says over here, if right now it's a zechutula, he says not only is it mutar for her to kill the baby, it's a zechut for her. And even if she would commit suicide herself as a tshuva, that's also good. There's no problem, as we've seen also. He says in the pasuk, right? That they killed themselves. He comes and he says, there's no problem. Fine. Then he comes and he says, right? Then he says, he wanted to come and he wanted to say that there's a problem because of the entire. Okay, he wants to say afterwards there's a lot of pilpul here, but I'm just going to bring down the actual halacha. He comes and he says like this. He wants to say, that which he said that it's a sur because of otzad zera levatala. He comes and he brings a proof that any single time that there's a tzorech mitzvah, it's mutar zera levatala, and he brings a whole bunch of different proofs because he says that the pasuk says v'shichet arza. Shichet arza is derech hashchata. Derech hashchata means that you're destroying something. So, for example, right? I was just asked this question actually 2 months ago. Right? A person has to come and they have to do IVF. Right? Now, how do you get the seed? How do you get the sperm? How do you get it? So there does exist a way of doing it with. It's called a sterilized condom. Which you're right, they do relations in the morning, right? All of a sudden they come, they bring it to the thing, it's sterilized, they're able to give the sperm to the doctors, and they're able to do it. But what happens if they can't do it? So there's a whole tshuva of Yabia of the Rav Ovadia. He brings down the whole way of what to do it. I'm not going to get into the tshuva, but there's times where you see that if the kavanah is not shichet artzad, you're doing something bad, but you're doing something for a mitzvah, so therefore it's actually good. There's no problem whatsoever. So he comes and he says, what's the Otzar Zela here? What? You're doing a mitzvah here. You're killing the child, which was actually going to be a mitzvah in such a case. So therefore there's no problem. So therefore he comes and he says, there shouldn't be a problem. You have the Zohar HaKadosh here over here that he says, Matan Torah, no Matan Torah. He comes and he says, right, there's no problem whatsoever. And therefore he says, there shouldn't be a problem. The Rav Pe'alim, the Ben Ish Chai, was asked this question. The Ben Ish Chai comes and he says like this, Sheila Daled, the Ben Ish Chai didn't want to paskin. You listen. He didn't. No. He didn't want to paskin. Is this Eshet Ish? This was a question of Eshet Ish. Is she permitted or not? Right here, Sheila Daled. I apologize if it was a married woman and she committed adultery and she's pregnant now. Right. Can this mamzer? Can she abort or not? Ben Ish Chai did not want to answer. You know what the Ben Ish Chai did? He brought down first the Chavot Yair. Tshuva b'davar hazeh eni rotze le'ashiv b'derech hora'ah lo. I don't want to paskin. Not for the Yisur, not for the Mutar. I'm just going to write down what the Achronim brought down. He brings down the Chavot Yair, Asur. He brings down the Yavetz, Mutar. But all of a sudden he brings down a Maharit. Listen to this Maharit. The Maharit says, B'isha Yisraelit mutar litasek ima berfuot kedei shetapil im yesh baze letzorech haem. So he comes and he says, for a woman, a Jewish woman, you're allowed to give her types of medicines or whatever it is in order to have an abortion if it's tzorech haem, for the necessity of, yes, the necessity of the mother. If it's for the requirement of the mother.
What do you mean?
One second, we're going to see. והעין מה שכתב עוד בסימן צדיק ז' נמצא בסוף סימן צדיק ט' מתיר להדיה לצורך חיים ונראה. Says the Ben Ish Chai, now he adds a twist, which is not part of the Marit. He says ונראה תיש לבעל דין נאמר היכא דאיכא פגם משפחה וביזיון וחילול השם. Are you guys listening carefully? If there's going to be a defect in the family, if there's going to be, right, a bizayon or a chilul Hashem, im yisha'er ha'ubar, if the ubar is going to be there, velo tapiloto, maybe this is considered tzorech gadol. Ukvar amarti. Well, there's a question. All those three, even maybe even F1. He says ukvar amarti. Shereni was it, but ve'eni migale dati. Rakitzati lifnei hashoel advarim v'yered dvarim. Show it to a rabbi and let him paskin. That's what the Ben Ishai said. Let him paskin. Right? He didn't want to paskin. Let him paskin. There's a Sefer Hasidim that wants to say that it's asur. Fine. The Mayan Omer of Rav Ovadia is actually something incredible, because the Mayan Omer is basically of Shitat, the Sfarim of, if you go through the Yabia Omer, right, which is basically the Chuvot of Rav Ovadia, it's going to become very technical. So I didn't really want to, but these are very many different types of questions. You will see that in essence, it's actually going to come out two different schools of thought. And the two different schools of thought is the school of thought of the Tzitz Eliezer, right, that we once learned, if you remember, and Rav Moshe Feinstein. Okay, the Tzitz Eliezer, he's going to come and he has this question. He comes and he brings down the Chavot Yair. He comes and he starts, first of all, he wants to say, what type of Nisur is it? Is it Doraita, Derabanan? Is it Shvichut Damim, not Shvichut Damim? Then he comes and he says, even the Chavot Yair made a differentiation between when in the pregnancy did it happen. Meaning, when in the pregnancy are you? Before 40 days, there's Gimarot Mefurashot that is considered Maya Be'alma, water. What's the proof? Many proofs. For example, a woman has a Hapala before 40 days. The next child, can you do Pidyon Ben? Yes. Right? Number two, is she Tumat Leida? Does she become Tmea Nida Mitzad Leida? No. Before 40 days, okay, she could become a Nida, but she's not Tumat Leida. Tumat Leida, remember, is 2 weeks, because since we don't know if the fetus was a boy or a girl, Tumat Leida for a Nekeva, right, is 14 days, not 7 days. For a boy, it's 7 days. For a girl, it's 14 days. So you don't have to. If it's before 40 days, it's Maya Ba'alma. Next one, Shlosha Chodashim. 3 months is Ukaru Bara. Many times when we talk about Ukaru Bara, we always spoke about, that means that you could already recognize that she's pregnant. But the Gemara says Krisea Ben Shinea, which means her stomach is in between her teeth. We, many times when we're talking about this, we always spoke about, okay, fine, now that she's pregnant, she's usually not going to get her period. Now she's already Ukaru Bara. There's different halachot and ta'anit. Do you know, once upon a time, once she's 3 months pregnant, now she doesn't have to fast anymore. Even though there's a biur, not a biur, Sharat Tziyun, the Sharat Tziyun, the Mishnah Berurah says, nowadays, even after 40 days, she doesn't fast, but it's the opposite. They're more weak when they're the beginning. And that's why the morning sicknesses and everything come in, so she has to actually break it even earlier. And that's why they get into it. But again, those are all different halachot. So therefore, you have 40 days, you have 3 months. The Tzitz Eliezer, right, he actually went even until 7 months in certain cases. Why? Because he wanted to say that he has full organs. And in order for the baby to have, when the organs already start becoming, some of the vital organs become fully grown, it's around 7 months. And that's why we say that by 7 months you could actually have a child, and then it's not going to be, right, a misborn, right? Because if it's going to be beforehand, obviously we know a 6 month child is a problem. 7 months, they could already live. 8 months is a pug, but that's a different halacha. Nowadays we have the things, fine. But that's what the Tzitz Eliezer says. But he comes and he says like this.
So he allows it, but just being mindful of what time?
No, well, first of all, he says, depends what times. You have to tell me when it is. So that's going to be question number 1. Depends when it is. Afterwards, he comes and he wants to argue on the Ya'avetz, meaning like this, right? Rav Yaakov Emden, he brought down the entire story where we said that if right now she's chayavet mitah, so if you could kill the child, he comes and he says, I don't even understand this guy. He says, I don't understand what's going on. He says, why? He says, I don't understand you. If you right now come and you kill this woman, are you patur or chayav? You're chayav. Exactly. So therefore, why in the world now? Because ki'ilu, she has a death penalty bashamayim. Now you're allowed to kill the child? 1 second. But if you kill her, you're chayav. So now why if you kill the child, now you're allowed? It doesn't make sense. Right? How does it make sense? So he actually argues on that. He argues on the chavot yair, to do with the shikvat zela levatala, the same way that he says that there's no problem. But then at the end he comes and he says, anytime that it's going to be a sakana, right? Anytime that there's going to be a sakana for the mother, right? And now, sakana for the mother does not only mean a for sure sakana. Sakana could mean always, sometimes even safek sakana, even if it's going to be a doubt of a danger, right? Which sometimes could happen. Not only safek sakana, you have danger, danger, danger.
Not sakana.
No. Now, from the Maharit, he brings down the Maharit, and because of the Maharit and the Ben Ishchai and the Rav Palim, they say it's also psychological. And this is also brought down in Mayan Omer. Right? Mayan Omer comes and he actually says an incredible case. The Mayan Omer, I'm sorry that I have to start cutting down the shiur, but the Mayan Omer, Rav Ovadia, he had a question. They came to him with a question that a child does not have a brain. So usually they call this anencephaly or microcephaly, depends on the case, right? But there's a few. What does that mean? A fetus. A fetus. What happens right now? A woman is. So what happened is that he could only live for a certain amount of time. Usually it's even only if bichlal he even lives through the labor, only a few hours usually. So what was halacha? Rav Ovadia says they're allowed to. No problem. They're allowed to come, and they're allowed to have. They're allowed to do an abortion. So.
The case, but not like autistic or something.
No, 1 minute. We'll talk about this one in 1 minute. 1 second. About autistic, we'll speak in a few minutes. So, Rav Ovadia came and he said, they're allowed to do it. Right? So, the question now is why? So, one of his students came, but that's a Mayan Omer. The Mayan Omer is basically one of his students coming and writing down all the things which are not written down in his chuvot, but writing down the things that they saw with their own eyes. Like the shimush. Right? Now, many times when you do shimush, you're not going to get everything which is written down. Right? So, what happens? He went and he asked him, but Rabbi, I don't understand. He says, Rav Ovadia, why in the world should it be mutar, leave it, and a natural birth, right? And it's going to die on its own. Rav Ovadia came and he answered, the fact that the woman already knows that she's pregnant with such a child is already a tsar, she's suffering. For her to suffer the rest of the pregnancy, and then she's going to give birth to the child knowing that it's going to die, will have a more negative effect on her, and therefore it's better that she does the termination. And therefore, he says, mutar. And it's not only him, Rav Zilberstein has a whole bunch of sfarim of Shiurei Torah L'Rofim. So I didn't bring it down here, but I actually went through, there's tons, just like one after another. And a lot of these questions, Rav Zilberstein, even though a lot of the Ashkenazim will take the shita of the approach of Rav Moshe Feinstein, they actually permit it. Now comes Rav Moshe Feinstein. Rav Moshe Feinstein.
Rabbi, you see anywhere that even by pregnant women, even if not talking about abortion, the idea of tiruf da,
yes, there's a special thing that
if she's pregnant, if you can apply it here all the more to a
yes, just like it happens of postpartum depression, so too if a woman gets pregnant and she's already suffering, and it could be that she's going to become mentally problematic, whatever it is, you could actually come and mamash they could do it, because again, this is because it's not only that's a sakana, and that's a tzorech haim. That's a necessity of the M, the what you just said, right? So now what happens? So therefore, Rav Moshe Feinstein came and he wanted to say, by the Eshetish, it's a sur. Any type of abortion is sur doraita. It could be even of Israel de shfichut damim, which means it could be a subcategory of shfichut damim. What? No. So now Rav Ovadia also held that it was isur doraita, right? But certain cases, for example, there was a case which was actually one of the funniest things that I saw. That he came and he asked. There was a certain question, right? Okay, there was a 15-year-old girl that she became pregnant. There was a boyfriend. She didn't want a thing. Is she allowed to or not? He comes and he speaks about this case. Listen to this question. The Tismon Adam, the autistic. So he says, Zug sheyesh lehem yalda achad bria, Baruch Hashem, u'shnei yeladim mi-100% pigur. So one child is good, and another two that they weren't 100% there. They had another 2 children that they died afterwards. There's a lot of problems. Now she's pregnant. She's in the 16th week. She says that it could be that also she's all, what can she do the apala or not? So he says, did it already pass three months? He said yes. He says, Lafnotam l'Rav Waldenberg. Send him to the Tzitz Eliezer. So in the footnote, he actually brings down that he said, go to the Tzitz Eliezer. Rav Ovadia didn't want to paskin. He wanted to send him to the Tzitz Eliezer. When he went to the Tzitz Eliezer sent him back to Rav Ovadia. He said, I don't understand. He says, if I'm right, so paskin that I'm right. And if I'm wrong, just paskin I'm wrong. But you paskin, what are you sending it to me? Rav Ovadia even himself didn't want to paskin in certain cases because it wasn't that simple. Rav Moshe Feinstein goes crazy. He doesn't even mention the name of the Tzitz Eliezer. He says, I saw some Chacham Echad in Yerushalayim that he wrote a tshuva to the doctors, and he was permitting this entire case of the abortion. He says, Shari lemare, his God should forgive him. He's completely mistaken. He's completely wrong. He goes crazy. And he says this soon. Now, why was that? Rav Ovadia wrote the tshuva, Rav Moshe Feinstein wrote the tshuva in 1977. That was Roe versus Wade in 1973. What was the entire concept? In America, it already became that you could do apalot whenever you want. Now remember, not whenever you want and you could do apalot, you could do it. You can just do an abortion whenever you want. You have to ask. And there has to be questions. You have to start asking. There's millions of different things. You have to know what thing. Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach never wanted to paskin until he saw the woman. He had to evaluate the woman. He wanted that the woman should come, speak to her. This, that. I told you a very famous case with Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. Rabbi Fran brings us down that Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach once had this case. A woman that she was learning in medical school. She became pregnant. She wanted to abort. She says, listen, I'm in school. I can't have it. So, okay, fine. He comes and he tells the rabbi, tell her to come not for the psak, that I should give her a beracha. You're going to tell her to psak, mutar, that's it. No. Tell her to come for a bracha. She came in to get a bracha, right? And he comes and he says, okay, fine, Bezrat Hashem, this and that you should come and you should say that. He didn't. She comes and says, what's the thing? He says, tell me, what do you do exactly? He says, I'm learning medical school. And why do you want to do that? He says, I want to become a doctor. And why do you want to become a doctor? He says, I want to save lives. He says, what? He says, and what about that? She's like, what? He says, what about that? He says, what, that's not a life? Doesn't have a heartbeat? That's not a life? What's that? She froze. She didn't have what to answer. And she's like, he went and he said, I give you a bracha that you're going to be able to succeed in everything that you do as long as you keep it. And she kept it. But why? Because it has to do with what you're supposed to understand. Obviously, depends on the timing. Now again, every case to their own. So it's already 5:19. I'll just give you the psak though, even though we didn't get through not even a third of the shiur. By the way, at the end of this, I actually printed out from to do with the Zika virus. If you remember, by Rav Lichtenstein in Headlines, we had he brings down a lot of what we spoke about, right? Well, basically, what happened is during the Zika virus, they also had the same questions. During the Zika, you remember there was a whole question because many times a pregnant woman, if she became pregnant, the child did not come out normal. So because of that, was it permitted the abortions or not? And again, that's where he went and he comes through all the different halachot. Again, I actually have it in the Manei Mekomot, so you could actually read it in English if somebody wants. Or if not, we could give a second class Bli Neder on a Mishmar Bli Neder next time, class number 2. But I will just give you the final psak, and then obviously you'll get to it. This case of the Nova, obviously, was it before 40 days? Yes. Why? Why is it before 40 days? We just had the month just 2 weeks ago. When they asked the question, it was before the 40 days. Number 1 was before the 40 days. Number 2, right? Psychologically. Because even though this child is not a mamzer, this child, she was a single woman. And this child is going to be 100% Jewish, even though the father's Arab. But to have such a woman going around the entire life, knowing and seeing this child and knowing this is the father, this is the guy that he came and he violated her and then he shot her, right? And then Mina Shamayim, she still survived. That would make much more psychological, much worse than any other cases. So therefore, what happened is that obviously they did give her the psak that she's allowed to do it. But again, obviously, every single case, you have to ask big rabbis. And I'm not the one to answer that either. You always have to go to the big poskim, because in every single case, there's going to be differences. When in the pregnancy, what, many times they come and they say, the doctor says, no, you have to find out. And therefore, there's a lot of halachot, obviously, in all this.